Once upon a time, what if I started all of my videos like I was telling you a story? Once upon a time, I thought about, didn't even look at, just thought about those little wooden stand things that they have at stores to hold up like flat-ish products, like plates or notebooks, stuff like that. You know what I mean? They're just a couple pieces of wood at the base and then dowel rods sticking up as separators. Why was I thinking about them? Y'all, I have not the foggiest. But I was. And I was thinking, hey, if you hung one of those up on the wall, then you could, in theory, stick books in each of the slots and they would balance on the little dowel rods, and it would be a fun way to display some books, right? Especially if you don't really have any bookshelves yet. I don't really have any bookshelves yet. It's just this guy. So this went on my to-do list right away with the idea that I would just go to some thrift stores and keep an eye out over the next several months and try to find some of those holder things that I could purchase for cheap and upcycle. Like, I committed to the vertical bookshelf idea before I ever went and checked out one of the base materials for the whole idea and made sure that, you know, my memory of them was accurate. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Several weeks later, or possibly months, I don't get out much, I was in a store and happened to pass by one of these stands on a shelf and I was like, ooh, pause, let's look at this. One, they're super flimsy. Two, the poles were way closer together than I remembered, like the slots were way smaller. And three, it really wouldn't work at all for what I was imagining. I think I could maybe use them to display plays because plays are so thin and light, but even then I'd probably want to like extra secure the dowel rods first. And I do have a ridiculously tall stack of plays over here, but what I really wanted to display was all of the paperbacks that I have been collecting lately. Ever since I started reading modern literature, which was the whole thing I talked about on the other channel, I've gotten a lot more paperbacks. Or like I've just gotten paperbacks in general, because I was kind of a book snob before and I really only bought hardcovers. And they are just all in here right now. You probably can't even see them, but it's getting full in here and they're all hidden away. So naturally, instead of adjusting the final product idea to fit the materials or dumping the idea altogether, I made the most logical decision of every audacious crafter out there. I'll just make it myself from scratch. How hard can it be? Seriously though, it doesn't seem that hard. Possibly just a little bit time consuming because of drilling all of the holes. I am picturing two long, cube tangles. Okay, if this is a cylinder, what is this called? Because a cube is even on all sides. A cube would cut off here. This is a tangent. Two long pieces of wood with probably a couple or maybe three, depending on how long I go with the whole thing, pieces of wood connecting it like a ladder for somebody with very long legs. And then there's just a bunch of dowel rods sticking out. This is such a good drawing. Yeah? I've got a jigsaw, I've got a nail gun, I've got a drill and a partner who I can make do the drilling for me, because for some reason that's the one step that I really don't like. How hard can it be? Let's go get supplies. While I make a mad dash for the hardware store, allow me a moment to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Monarch. Monarch is a private, ad-free personal finance platform. They bring all of your stuff together in one place. If you've got multiple bank accounts or credit cards, if you're always jumping from website to website trying to remember so many passwords, with Monarch you can see it all together at the same time in the same place in a rather aesthetically pleasing manner, if I do say so myself. Monarch has bank-level encryption and offers read-only access to your accounts, so it's really easy to get the full picture, set goals, and see where your money is actually going. For example, it wasn't until I started using Monarch that I realized I was being charged monthly for a subscription to the UK Amazon Prime. What? I don't even know how that happened, but thankfully, with quite a bit of research, I was able to stop it. Monarch syncs with over 13,000 institutions, bringing all of your personal finance info together into one clean dashboard. If you and a partner are working towards the same financial goals, you can utilize the shared view too. If Monarch sounds right for you, start your free trial and get 50% off your first year of total money clarity by clicking the link in the description below or using my code STITCHERY50. Thank you to Monarch for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to shelves and supplies. Okay, we have 2 very long square poles, 10 half-inch dowel rods, and these packages that I only got for the keyhole hangers in the bottom here, but they didn't have them on their own. Of course not. So I had to get the whole packages. It's time to take a bunch of measurements, and the dining room table is covered in felt, and it is extremely windy outside, so we're gonna do it here. What do I need? How tall is the whole thing gonna be? I feel like it would be weird to have it go too close to the floor because I don't know. That's all I got. I really don't know why that would feel weird. I think it should be like 5 feet, although quite frankly, I could make it 6 feet. These poles are longer than that. Yeah, I could easily do 6 feet and still have enough on the ends to do my little crossbars. That's the next measurement. I need to know the average size of a paperback book. There's obviously some variety, but I feel like we can pretty easily do an average. These are all almost exactly the same height. I put these out of frame, of course, so you can't see them, but trust me, they are about 8 inches tall, which would be the width of this shelf. Oh, that's really close together. These poles themselves are 1.5 inches, and then the dowel rods are 1/2 inch and will be in the center. And you want the books to hang over the edges of the dowel rods. So like, let's do a little test. Ta-da! This feels like some sort of balancing game. Hi! Look, Mommy got the perfect balance. Come measure how far apart those are.
Just like these?
Yeah. They could do about 5 inches. Okay.
Okay.
So if the poles are 5 inches away from each other, and the poles are in the center of the squares, then the squares themselves would be like 4 inches away from each other. Yeah, that's really close. I have a pencil so I can write these measurements down somewhere, and then I just didn't bring any paper. How long do the dowel rods need to be? I feel like this can be pretty varied because quite frankly, a book would balance even if it was extending over the edges, but it will also balance just fine if the dowel rods are sticking out and a little bit longer. So the average width of these books is 5 3/8. That took me a while. And then the dowel rod is going to be sunk all the way into this 1.5 inch thing. So 6, 7? I originally estimated 8. That was how I counted how many dowel rods to get. I estimated 8 inches, which again would be fine because they can stick out the ends. If anything, that's just gonna make the books stay on there even better. So the last measurement I need is how far apart all of the dowels should be, which would be the average height. And obviously that is where you have the most difference here. Like Demon Copperhead is coming in at 1.5 inches, and then Ethan Frome here is only 1/2 inch. So I think I should put them 2 inches apart, and then I can always stack a couple smaller paperbacks on one slot, you know? But then if I happen to ever read a paperback that's even chunkier than Demon Copperhead, it'll still fit in there. So now in theory, I could do some math and figure out how many dowel rods I need, in theory. Now see, the reason I did 8-inch lengths on the dowel rod is because these are 48 inches. They're 4 feet long. So essentially, what I should do if I want to use up all of my dowel rods is figure out the math to evenly space 30? Is that how that works? Yes, to evenly space 30 dowel rods on 72 inches, which would be slightly more than 2 inches apart because 30 times 30 is 60. I mean, 30 times 2 is 60. Okay, this has been plenty of measuring and math. Let's go cut some stuff. We start with a bunch of measuring and marking. Figured out a good way to mark all the dowel rods at the same time. And then as I went to take off the stickers, I realized I had purchased a single 7/16 inch dowel among all of my 1/2 inch dowels. So I thought we'd be down to 27 rod shelves, but then guess who happened to have a 1/2 inch dowel rod just hanging out in her closet for no apparent reason? Yep, it's me. We're back to 30. Perfect. The jigsaw definitely made all of this cutting much, much faster, but I do want to note that if you want to make one of these for yourself, it would not be hard to hand saw. Like, these are all pretty small, and with a hand saw, I'm pretty sure you could go through a bunch of them at the same time. But now we get to my least favorite part of any woodworking adventure, sanding. I really hate sanding. At least I had some very lovely company across the yard to look at, though. With all my pieces cut and sanded, 'tis time for math. Yay. I divided 72 by 32 because that seemed like maybe how math works. That gave me 2.25 inches, so I made a little piece of sticky note that size and marked lines every 2.25 inches down the entire length of the shelf column piece. I then counted the lines and had 31. 31? No. Still an absolute math whiz over here, clearly. I decided whatever, I'll let there be 4.5 inches below the last set of rods at the bottom of the shelf. No biggie, who cares? And then I repeated those marks down the whole second piece. Remind me not to do home renovations, furniture building, or really any woodworking type of project when it's this windy outside. It's not very helpful. I spent a lot of time chasing stuff around the yard. Now we fetch the partner for the drilling. Like smart kiddos, we did a lot of testing and tried to come up with all sorts of plans for how to get straight holes with no splintering in the center of the column and lined up perfectly with the column next to it. And upon finally deciding we could go for it and drill the first tiny hole in the actual bookshelf piece, it was crooked and off-centered.
I feel like there must be some less complicated way people have of doing this.
We just need a thing to go like, line up. We'll just do this.
Back to the hardware store for me.
20 minutes later.
We considered renting a full-on drill press, but that felt a little over the top, especially since it was after 3 in the afternoon. Never get too involved in something after 3 in the afternoon unless it's midsummer, you know? Is this just my own policy? It's possible. But hey, we definitely could have benefited from a drill guide in past projects, and that's a pretty affordable tool to add to the stash, so that's the direction I went. And we got back to testing and debating and figuring out all the same things we were figuring out before.
It's gonna be the most precise thing we've ever done so far.
I know.
There's so many holes to go still. What is this?
You're doing great. Huzzah!
Some of them don't really seem that centered. Like,
They don't. That seems pretty right angled.
now only 30 more holes.
By the time we got to the second column, we had figured out a few more things, namely that you didn't need the safety hole, or is it called a pilot hole, I think, maybe? The smaller one, before you do the full-sized one. It was an attempt to keep the wood from splintering, but we figured out that the wood didn't splinter when we just used the half-inch drill right from the start. And possibly the smaller hole was even contributing to the off-centeredness of the first line of our holes.
Ow!
Like so many sticks.
This is so hot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, I think it's better that I didn't pre-drill because it's not moving as much.
I know.
I think it was moving because there was already a hole there.
Yeah.
Well,
Now we know.
Yeah, now we know.
Oh, well, we have both lived and learned, and you know me, I don't believe in perfection. This'll do just fine.
Someone should open a bar and call it 2 bars, and then when everybody comes in, they're gonna be like, where's the other bar? And then also when people are like, do you wanna go to 2 bars tonight? Everyone will be confused.
That's a great idea.
Before the sun totally set on this venture, I tossed all of the dowels into their holes just to see how it's looking. They're gonna need glue before staying there permanently. And then I got Matt to screw the middle pieces into place, because I don't like screwing either. Sawing, I'm all in, quite enjoy it. Drilling and screwing, just not for me. Y'all, if I ever go to a market, I could display so many things. Why does it also weirdly make me think of like an instrument? But I don't know what instrument. But yeah, there we have it. 6 feet long, 30 little shelves. I need to glue all of these poles in. Interestingly, on the first one that we did, which I think is this one, yeah, most of them are in here pretty tightly. Like I could turn it over and they didn't come out. And then the second one, they're a lot looser, which means that some of them are kind of angling downward a little bit. I don't know what was happening. This would have been a lot easier to make with an actual drill press in case anyone wants to like take this design and start manufacturing it. You'd want a drill press, but it was accomplishable with just a drill guide. Anyway, so I think as I glue it, some of these I'm gonna need to like hold in place. So that'll be fun. 'Tis time to find out if these wood glues are dry. I really hope not. I'd love to not go back to the hardware store again. Don't want to go anywhere today because it's National Strike Day. That's not dry, that's all good. Ooh, okay, that one looks significantly worse. All right, let's do this. Some of these are so well in here that I might not be able to get them back out. Great. I mean, I suppose in that case, I could just leave them. That works. I don't think it needs much. I'm just gonna put like one little drop in the bottom. Maybe, if I can get this open. Yeah. Cool. Ah, all right. Immediately, very messy. Let me get paper towels. Better yet, wet rag. Y'all, one of our neighbors has like the old school burglar alarm that goes like eow, 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 burglar, 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 and then it says a bunch of other stuff. I'm sure it would be very effective, except that it just goes off probably about once every 6 months. And the first time it went off, of course, we were like, oh my God, burglary. Like we were going out there and checking and stuff. But no, it's the alarm that cried wolf. So like nobody pays any attention to it anymore, which seems to defeat the purpose. But this time it decided to go off at 6:30 in the morning. So that was a lovely start to the day. All right, how long does this take to dry? Clamp for 20 to 30 minutes. Allow to dry for 24 hours. Okay, well, I'm just gonna do a bunch more of that then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starting there. Puppy break. Hello. I love you so much. Oh, good baby. What's up, my baby? You're so red. It hasn't been 24 hours, but it has been enough hours, probably, to add the magic touch that makes any homemade cheap wood project look so professional. A good dark stain. This probably would have been easier to stain before constructing, just adding any touch-ups once finished, but oh well, I've got time. And wind. The wind has not let up yet. We're becoming good friends, the wind and I. Feels pretty stable, so I think we're good, y'all. Yeah, it's not really moving at all. I'm not sure if this is the final place that I'll be leaving it forever. I mean, obviously it kind of isn't because this room has to get renovated at some point. But for now, this seemed like a good spot. Yay! It pretty much looks like what I was imagining. Time to fill it with books. Y'all, the lighting in this room, I don't know why, but it is such a challenge. Like the way the sun comes through the window doesn't really go well with cameras. But okay, so theoretically we have 30 slots. I can put 30 books in here, although again, if I have some small ones, I could stack, so potentially 30 plus. I'm not gonna go into a ton of detail. If you love a good book chat, that's all on the second channel. I quite frequently do book chats over there, but maybe I'll try to give you like very speedy reasons why these are my favorites that I've read so far. Also, this definitely feels strong enough. That was a book falling over in here, but it terrified me because I was pushing on this at the time. It definitely feels strong enough to support like hardcover books as well. But for the sake of both safety and consistency, we're gonna stick with paperbacks. So no Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And no Hamnet, because I have a hardback of that, although it was one of my favorites. Did I mention I've been reading a lot? Plenty to choose from here. Giovanni's Room. Yes. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Yes. Cried hard at that one. A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, but I need to find the sequel. Yes for this. Wait, is this the first one or the second one? This is the second one. I guess I'm not even gonna give you quick reasons why I liked them. I'm just gonna tell you I liked them. Danger. Ministry of Time? Absolute yes. One of my top favorites of the last year. 100 Years of Solitude. Loved it. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Very good. Oh. Parable of the Sower. Yes. I feel like once I choose my 30, I'm gonna end up doing like a rainbow something. Oh, there's the other Hank Green. Careful. Oh yeah, a bunch of these I could put together. Can I fit these together? I can, 'cause they're a pair. Yay. Cross stitch, or in its original language, punto de cruz. Very good. I who have never known men. Oh, so good. As long as the lemon trees grow, a tough read, but a very good one. Remarkably Bright Creatures. Not like a huge standout for me, but it was a very enjoyable book. The Phantom Toll Booth. I never read this as a kid, and I'm just glad I've read it now. I enjoyed it. A lot of these slots hold 2 books, especially because I do have a lot of smaller ones in here, especially when I was traveling last year. I got a lot of like novelettes and stuff. I think I might be able to fit a whole bunch of these in here. Blackouts was just a random one I selected, and it was really interesting. Slaughterhouse 5, I enjoyed. Their Eyes Were Watching God. Another like tough read but good one. Jazz. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. Both good. The Book Thief. Very good. If you have not read it, you should. When the Emperor Was Divine. Honestly, probably one of the most moving books. That's hard to say because I've read a lot of really moving books, but probably one of the most moving ones I've read recently. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, I got because the title is incredible, and it was another very eye-opening read. The Blind Assassin. First Margaret Atwood that I've read. My sister gave it to me because she didn't like it. I thought it was very interesting. A Concise Chinese-English Dictionary for Lovers. Was very good. Our Sister Killjoy. I got some great like international ones while I was in England. Love in the Time of Cholera. I liked 100 Years of Solitude better, but I did still like this one. Kindred, another Octavia Butler. Also very good. Oh, we're getting past my reach now, but I'm loving the way it looks. Yo, I love this so much. All right, we have a few here that I very specifically did not like, so, sorry. You're not going on display. The joy of trying to figure out what kind of books I enjoy reading that are not just classic literature is that you do have to read some that you don't like. It is just as important to the journey. The Heartbeat Library. I loved this one. Oh, we're only like half full, and I can definitely squeeze some more in here, yeah. We Are Green and Trembling was very interesting. These are some that I got for my Reading Around the World journey to the Edge of Life, specifically looking for authors from other countries and reading translated works. Oh, Demon Copperhead, of course has to go in here. I absolutely loved this book. Does it fit? It does. You know, it's weird how our eyes don't really like handle size very well. Cause looking at like the space between these, like the overall size and the space this way, looking at it, I was very much like, is this gonna be big enough? Like your brain can picture the size of a book and yet still thinks that none of this is actually big enough for books. Maybe that's not everyone. I shouldn't say my brain, not very good with size. House on Mango Street and We Have Always Lived in the Castle are both good ones. I'm gonna save some of the small ones though. Well, not save them, but yeah, see, they can all slide in with a bigger one. Haha. The Berry Pickers. Quite good. Okay, we don't have much left. Let me do some quick rearranging. Y'all, should I do it by color? I'm tempted to do it by color, but then I think that like the mix of color is actually nice. So actually I'm more tempted to purposely randomize the color, like make sure that there's not like orange right next to orange. Yeah, I've got plenty of space here, so it's not gonna just be my favorites. It's gonna also be some of my middling fine books, especially since I have some really small ones like these. Oof, some of these are definitely crooked, but not to the point where it's causing problems. See, now I'm getting really picky about no two colors being too close together. Yeah, you can really see how crooked some of these are now. It's okay. It's delightfully imperfect. What do we think? Too many black ones right here. Too many orange ones. It still definitely feels really sturdy, with all of the weight on it. It doesn't feel like it's gonna break or fall off the wall at all. Huzzah! Yo, I'm so pleased with this. It was such a random idea and it really turned out well. I love that these are now on display instead of hidden away, and I love that I was able to figure out how to make it from scratch. I think if you don't have a lot of books, or if you're just looking for some new way to display books, or if you don't have a lot of space for traditional bookshelves, something like this is a really great idea for displaying your books. You also absolutely don't have to make it 6 feet tall. Like, you could make a little one of these and you could hang it next to your bed and have like your, you know, to read books on there, your maybe current reads if you're a person who reads a bunch at once. You could make a bunch of shorter ones and do them like at different heights on a wall. So you just have like these chunks of books kind of floating there. There's definitely a lot of options within this sort of base idea. And I do think that if you found some of the actual display stands, if you maybe reinforced the dowel rods and just made sure it could take the weight or just put lighter books on it, I think you could use those. Again, my idea of size is very off visually. So when I finally looked at one of those right in front of me, I was like, this is way too small. But the reality is that it probably wasn't. It was fairly flimsy though, but maybe they make some that are like sturdier, you know? I think that's it for this one, y'all. Pretty simple project, all things considered. Keep reading. Tell me what you're reading in the comments. Tell me what I should read in the comments. I always love getting more book recommendations. Tell me if you've read anything that I put on the shelf here and what you thought of it. Tell me all the things. Shing!
But that does not stand.
So I think I should put them 2 inches apart, and then I can I just choked on nothing. Oh, that's a lot of white sheetedness. Oh, my nose. Ooh, it's burning. Oh, white. God, that took way too long to build. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Hello.
I can't leave this out here. It's gonna be full of wood shavings.
Accurate.
There's already a puppy hair in here.
There's always a puppy hair.
Oh God, I can't crouch like that. Oh Lord.